Hi everybody. It has been a minute since I've uploaded here on YouTube. I think like maybe 8 months. Um, I'm sorry for disappearing. I kind of just started having a lot of things going on in life. I was diagnosed with celiac disease very unexpectedly, and it was a lot to learn and I was overwhelmed. But I am doing a lot better now. So I'm ready to share all of my projects. Since it has been 8 months, a lot has happened. So I'm gonna try and cover it all. I don't even know. There's a very overwhelming number of things sitting in front of me right now. I guess I'm gonna start by talking about everything that I finished since the last video. Well, at least I think it's gonna be everything. This mass that I'm holding is only part of the pile. And I don't know, there's been a lot of really fun updates, and I'm just excited. I'm gonna start by talking about what I'm wearing, which is a finished object since last time. This is the 1980s Lake Placid Olympics sweater from the Dale of Norway. This is part of their Olympics sweaters that they would release with every Olympics for their ski team. I don't know. But I finished. This is in Berroco Lanas Light in the color Raspberry and Natural. You might be looking at this sweater thinking, wow, it looks quite small. And that is because I was significantly off gauge. Since starting this sweater, I have started taking gauge swatching very seriously, which I have so many gauge swatches that I could probably do a whole video touring gauge swatches. But anyway, this sweater, I think I'm like 6 or 7 stitches too small. So it fits like the dimensions of a size small in the pattern, but I was knitting a size large. So it's fine. I really like how it turned out. I honestly think that at this smaller gauge, the motif really comes across well. I do maybe would consider knitting it again, maybe. I don't know, there's so many other things that I want to knit that it's hard to say, but I do really like how it turned out. The sleeves are a little bit short. I probably, next time I wash it, might try to block them a little longer, but I honestly don't mind because, like, if I'm, like, washing my hands or something, the sleeves don't get in the way, and, like, I don't know, it doesn't bother me that much. This was my first time steeking, and my mom helped me do it. Basically, we sewed along the steek seam, which actually I learned from somebody that the steek is actually just the stitches that you prepare to cut, I think. So we cut the steek by sewing along the steek stitches, and then cutting. And then what I did to attach the sleeve is actually different than I think what they tell you to do when you're steeking. They wanted me to knit facing and sew it in, but I didn't want it to be bulky. So what I did instead is I picked up a round of stitches like at the armhole opening, and then I Kitchenered that round of stitches to live stitches from my sleeve so that it would just be a little less bulky. And then also at the shoulder seam, instead of doing facing and sew it together, I did a 3-needle bind off. But I'm really happy with how it looks, and I would knit an all-over colorwork sweater again. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is the Callisto hat, which is my hat pattern that is now out. It has been out. Basically, last year, I applied to be one of the designers featured in the Kelbourne Woolens Year of DK Hats series that they're now releasing through 2026. Every month, a new free hat pattern will come out. And this was my hat pattern, which was the pattern for January. It's the Callisto hat. It's free on Ravelry or kelbournewoolens.com. It features these XO cables. My mom actually made this one. In the pattern, it calls for like a tubular cast on, but she just did German twist cast on, I think, which I still think looks great. But it has these XO cables running up into this crown section, which is also cabled. in the beginning, and then is just normal after. But hopefully you can see it's like this interesting star-ish shape, and some of the cables continue up into the crown. This might be kind of a stretch, and well, honestly it is, but these little pieces up in here were supposed to kind of look like hearts. That was conceptual. It didn't really end up reading that way in the end, but I am really happy with how it turned out. And if you're looking to have just like a cozy winter hat, I would say this is a great pattern, but maybe I'm biased. This one was knit in Germantown DK, held with Harmony. I'm not actually sure what the colors are called, but I want to say like baby pink and dusty rose, something like that. And then I'm also knitting another one. This one is in Germantown DK in the color Jade and Harmony in the color Ice Blue. Both yarns from Kelbourne Woolens, if I didn't already say that. This is how far I've gotten. I am going to only do 2 repeats of the body chart and not do a palm, so it fits more like a beanie than like a winter hat, you know? Just because that's kind of my preferred hat type. Anyway, I'm really excited to see how it turns out, and I guess I'm going to try to insert pictures of the other ones that I made, because this is actually my 3rd one. Because I made the sample that's in the pattern photos, and then I made another one for my friend's mom in Germantown DK in the color Natural, held with accessory from Lana Grossa in Natural Cream. I don't know, it's a shade of white. I realized that I didn't put the hat on, so here it is. Yeah. You can see big, poofy, lovely winter. Since we're talking about me and patterns that I've worked on, I want to talk about the Froliclava, which is a pattern that I made in collaboration with Emily is Knitting. We basically just like we're talking on DM because Emily had started working on this balaclava from scraps from a different project, and we had both received this Phoenix Tweed yarn from Jade, Violent Cat Lady, and we had both said that we wanted to make a balaclava with it, and then we both were like, how could we have not done it yet? Because I got this yarn from Jade like 10 months ago? I don't know, it was last summer. Maybe like last May even. Anyway, we talked about it a little bit, and then we were like, wait, wouldn't it be so fun if we did a knit along? And then, wouldn't it be so fun if we made a pattern for the knit along? And then, wouldn't it be so fun if that pattern was any gauge? So that's how we've landed on the Froliclava. It is a free knitting pattern that you can get on Ravelry. It has 3 sizes with both positive and negative ease options. It's any gauge. It just kind of walks you through how to measure your gauge and then make a balaclava based off of those measurements. Okay, now I'm gonna get into the finished objects that are not by me pattern-wise. Starting with my zipper sweater man from Petite Knit. I'm pretty sure that I had showed this on my last video. I guess I'm not 100% sure, I don't remember. I'm sorry for not looking back before filming this, whatever. This is the zipper sweater man from Petite Knit. This is in Cascade 220 Grande Superwash. I don't usually go for Superwash yarns, but this yarn I saw in a yarn store like the weekend after I had gotten my celiac diagnosis, and it just kind of felt like perfect timing to try making this I'm explaining this horribly. Basically, I had this vision of like, okay, this was inspired by Tori on TikTok. I don't know her handle. It's like Torrance maybe. Anyway, she made this video talking about how like in our hair we hold so much memories which I very much relate to. I feel like I've shaved my head a lot in my life. By a lot, I mean like 3 or 4 times. And it's been like always related to like some sort of emotional release. So the idea was that since we hold so much memory in our hair and yarn is sheep hair, our knitting also holds memories of the person we were as we were knitting things. So I was like, it would be a really great idea for me to try and like imbue my feelings about the celiac into a sweater. So I went to the yarn store the weekend after I got diagnosed. Honestly, a yarn store that I hate, but I was there and I saw this color and I thought it was perfect. And, you know, unfortunately, Superwash, but it's fine. I'm not like that anti, it's not my preference. But I felt called to the yarn. I knew that I had wanted to make this zipper sweater man pattern. And this was around the time that Knitting for Olive was doing their fundraiser for Palestine. And unfortunately at that time, it wasn't in my budget to be able to do the heavy merino, which is what I wanted to do this in. But I saw this and it was on sale. And since I'd already decided I wanted to do the pattern, I was like, well, this is kind of, I feel like the universe has placed this here for me. So I decided to do it. And honestly, I love how it turned out. Let me actually put it on for you guys over this other sweater. Okay, so I really like how it fit. Basically, this was not supposed to fit in this way. It was definitely supposed to have more ease. But I have like kind of wide shoulders, and I think whatever man size chart Petite Knit is using is like a man who has like narrower shoulders, because I do find this situation to be the case on this sweater. Plus I also made the Ingrid sweater man, which I actually have in my pile to show you later. And in both of these patterns I've had issues where choosing my size based off of my chest isn't actually fitting with the right amount of ease, because I do think this was supposed to have a little bit more ease. I guess it never really looked. Maybe this is how it was supposed to fit. But anyway, I do think it is a really flattering fit regardless. I will say the sleeves are short even though I lengthened them. But it's fine. I am happy with how it turned out. I will say it's pilling a lot already, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but also I have a habit of choosing yarns that pill. I don't know. It's because I don't really tend to hold with mohair, and then the yarns that I end up using don't tend to be the most rustic, which is like probably my fault. But anyway, zipper sweater man. I guess while we're on the topic of Petite Knit man patterns, I have this Ingrid sweater man that I finished in 2023 that I actually just recently reclaimed from having given it to my mom. Basically, when I freshly finished it, I was not at all used to wearing drop shoulder sweaters. And I was really discouraged because when working on this pattern, I chose originally to kind of make it true to my size, but then it ended up being way too small. So this is a 2XL. I'm usually more like a medium, and I do really love how it turned out, but it was one of those projects where I just was like so tired of it by the time I finished, and it didn't end up fitting in the way I expected. But that's also just because I wasn't used to drop shoulders, but I've grown and I like them now. Anyway, this is my Ingrid sweater man. This is in Cascade 220. I don't know what color it is. It's non-superwash, and I will say it is pilling a fair amount, but I have been wearing it a lot since I stole it back because I do still really love how it wears. It's very sweatshirty, and yeah, even though maybe it wasn't the most seamless journey to complete it, it was my first time like tackling a sweater pattern where I was like, oh my god, that looks so hard, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to do it. And then it ended up being so doable, and I think it's one of the first ones that gave me the confidence to start really branching out there in knitting patterns. Okay, another finished object. This was my cable sweater from last year. As I have mentioned before, I have started a tradition of making yearly cabled sweaters. In one of my other videos, I've showed the ones I've made so far. I don't have them next to me, but this is the one that I have made for 2025. This is the pattern VPU112 from AranPatternArchive.com. Ultimately, the sleeves and the body are like slightly cropped, like very slightly, and it's fine. I don't want to go back and fix it, but it's very slight. But these cables are so beautiful. They nearly killed me as I was working on them just because there was just so much. This pattern was originally written to be knit flat bottom up, and I modified it to be in the round top down. It's in Lion Brand Fisherman's Wool. I think that I honestly chose a yarn weight that was too thin for this project. I think it was supposed to be on a thicker yarn at a denser gauge. And so the pattern didn't have a row gauge, just a stitch gauge. So this met the stitch gauge, but based off of the number of repeats that I did versus the pattern, I think my yarn was supposed to be thicker. I think my row gauge was supposed to be different. However, I do really like how it turned out. Let me put it on. Here's how it fits, keeping in mind I have another sweater on underneath this. Although, actually, let me switch. Okay, here it is on its own. The thing about an all-over colorwork sweater is that it becomes a double layer of fabric and then it becomes very warm. So I will say that Lake Placid sweater is quite warm. Anyway, here is my cabled sweater. I'm really happy with how it looks. It's just such a classic cream cable. And I really like it. I think it did teach me a lot about yarn weights and trying things on. But hey, it's done. And I did finish it in 2025. So now I have a 2023, 2024, and 2025 sweater, and 2020. And I do have one that I'm going to show you in a little bit for this year also. So I'm keeping the tradition. My final finished object is this, which is the Regent Pullover from Mr. Non Knits. The pattern is out now. I test knitted this pattern, and it is a raglan top down. This is a knit in West Yorkshire Spinners Aran Fable. And it has this cool cable motif along the raglans that continues to the underarm and then goes down the sleeve and the body. And the decreases are worked into this cable pattern, and there's decreases on the body and the sleeves. You can see I did this like striped version, which there's instructions in the pattern how to do this. And I do really like how it turned out. I think it's slightly small for me, which is unfortunate, but the yarn, dreamy. The way that the raglan fits is quite flattering. And yeah, we've now made it to the part where I'm going to talk about what I've been working on, which, yeah, let's just jump in. To hold some semblance of structure, I am going to start with garments and then accessories. So let's get into it. The first thing that I've been working on is this cabled cardigan, which is the pattern VPU153 from Aran Pattern Archive. This I'm doing in Lucky Tweed from Kelbourne Woolens. I have finished the back panel. I have finished the left front, including this fun little pocket, and then I have cast on the right front. I am working through this kind of quickly because I ideally want it to be done by like the beginning of May because I'm going on a trip and I'd love to wear it on the trip. So I'm continuing to work on it. I don't even know if the camera is able to pick up how beautiful this yarn is, but it's the color Ocean, and it has beautiful shades of blue and green in the base, and then the flecks are like these blues and these cream, and like there's occasional pinks in there, and it really does kind of remind me of the ocean. This is gonna be my first cardigan, and I'm very excited about that because I feel like I do kind of crave like an easy like outerwear piece that is not like a full sweater. So who knows? This will be getting done pretty quickly, I think. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is this Versal sweater by Albina McLaughlin, which I'm making for my brother. I just finished all the yoke shaping, and now I have to knit straight for a few more inches before I split for the sleeve and body. This is in Berroco Lanas in the color Cracked Pepper. I opted to cast on the neckline and knit down and then pick up for the collar, which is like different from what the pattern says. But this is like gonna be a 2XL, and I was a little worried that if I started from the top of the collar like the pattern says, that it might stretch out a bunch as my brother wears it. But I think with the kind of like faux seam created from picking up the stitches, it will be a little bit more sturdy, hopefully. But yeah, I am really obsessed with how this yarn is working up in stockinette. It's like lightly heathered, but it's a dark gray. And you know, this is like my third or fourth time knitting this pattern. It's one of my favorites. It's so adaptable. It's so flattering. So yeah, I don't even know what more I could say. Now I'm gonna talk about some self-drafted things. I think I might have talked about this sweater before, but it might have just been a swatch at the time. I don't really remember. But this is a self-drafted pattern. I can actually try it on for you guys. So this is in a wool that my mom gave me, and then accessory from Lana Grossa in the color Nougat. I've decided to do a long cuff that's quite tight because I'm gonna do this full turtleneck, so I want this sweater to be warm, and I don't want like gusts of wind coming up my sleeve. So I haven't decided if I'm gonna do the neckline 1 layer thick or like just go for it and do like a double folded full turtleneck. I've started the second sleeve. I have a ways to go on the body, but I'm so excited with how this is turning out. And also I don't want to take it off at this moment, so it's just gonna stay on. The next sweater that I'm working on is also self-drafted. This is in Ula and Leah cashmere, 100% cashmere fingering weight. It's gonna be a V-neck. I started doing the neckline. Unfortunately, I had a little bit of an issue with my pickup stitches right along this edge. So I am gonna go back and start over on my neckline. But hopefully you can kind of see. It's like not a super deep V. I ended up doing short row shaping at the collar, which in a future video, I want to talk about that more. I'm just like worried that this video is already extremely long, so I don't want to like make it longer. But it's self-drafted, drop shoulder, Ula and Leah cashmere, fingering weight. So soft and gorgeous and amazing. And then a fun little project that I cast on and kind of got pretty far in pretty much just when I was visiting my family over the holidays is this hat, which I'm using a strand of high-vis thread. I can't say that I'd necessarily recommend knitting with the high-vis thread. It's kind of horrible because I'm having to hold 4 strands of high-vis with 1 strand of Germantown DK in order to like have the high-vis show up. And it's kind of a lot of threads to manage. So I'm not having fun knitting it. Honestly, I got to this point 2 months ago and I haven't picked it up since. But that's also because this is like a self-drafted hat and I haven't fully decided what I want to do in the crown shaping yet. So yeah, this Germantown DK and high vis thread. I also have casted on the Herding Cow socks from Stone Knits. I'm trying out these Addy Flexi Flips needles to do these. I honestly kind of think I want to start them over because my tension is not quite perfect through here, and anyway, I prefer... I wonder if my other try is in here. No. I had tried once doing it with Magic Loop. It kind of turned out horribly, so I started over. I bought new needles. I bought the Flexi Flips to see if I would like it better. I do like them better. I'm still getting used to them though, which is why I kind of think I want to start over. I don't know. I think I'm being hard on myself. I think they look fine. We'll see. And then the final thing that I'm going to show, which is not honestly the final whip that I have, but I'm getting tired. This is the field socks or the camp socks from Ozetta. I don't remember what it's called, but I had decided that I wanted to try making socks, so I cast this one on. Unfortunately, it was starting to hurt my hands quite a bit, so I haven't touched it in a while. But this is in yarn that I got in Iceland. This is from Hespa, Iceland, in the color Rhubarb, which is the name of my cat, which is why I got this yarn. And then the red is Sedasuri from Lana Grossa, and then the purple color is Cumulus Alpaca from Fiber Spades. And the pattern has a rolled hem, which I originally did, and then I undid it and did an Italian bind off, and it looks horrible, and anyway, thank you guys for tuning back into my knitting podcast, even though it has been like 8 months, and hopefully I'll get better about doing these regularly again.